Good day, everyone. My name is Robin Allen. I'm honored to be here. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Watchman Investigations, LLC. Thank you so much for showing up to have this experience, to share this experience with us. I'm a licensed private investigator, and I've been running a company with my dad for close to 20 years now. It's a company that I actually took over from him recently, just before the pandemic. I also am a national consultant on jails and prison work, and I facilitate dialogue between law enforcement agencies and the community. I'm honored to share this day with you. These have been troubling times, and we've all experienced challenges as business owners in our own businesses. For instance, distance learning with young children. That's something that I've had to be a part of during the pandemic while managing business, and really time management, and also pivoting to figure out how to continue making my business a profitable one when I've been so accustomed to working in person with individuals, conducting interviews as a private investigator in person, just figuring out how to really be creative during these times and how I could really take advantage of operating in this virtual world. And so I'd like to pose the question, how have you been able to pivot, and what challenges have you faced during this pandemic? I'd like to introduce our panelists. Dr. Brian Kennedy, Senior Pastor, Mount Zion Church of Ontario. Panelist Jason Cowles, Managing Partner, Nitrogen Express. And panelist Mary Lynn Baker, President and Owner, DH Casters. Welcome to Connecting Faith and Business, Praying, Pivoting, Preparing, and Persevering during the pandemic, how business and faith-based leaders have done it.
The pandemic, when we had to change up because of COVID 19, at that time, there was over 2 million people infected with COVID, and we were over 120,000 people who had lost their lives because of COVID 19. Um, Many churches followed the orders from the CDC and refrained from large gatherings. And that is a huge change for the church. Never in our history, we're over 2,000 years old, the church, and never in our history have we had to worldwide cease or refrain from large gatherings. So this was historic. It was right before the largest gathering of churches around the world, which is Easter. And so we had to pivot quickly. And I am clearly convinced that on Easter 2020, the church reached more people in the world than in history because we had to go online. Churches quickly went online because COVID cannot stop the church. We're unstoppable. Jesus already said that. And so we simply pivoted and we went to online platforms like Zoom and other platforms, Microsoft Team, and you name it. We went to all those platforms. And this is kind of funny, but if one person would have stood up and said, okay, churches, pastors, this year we want to reach more people than ever before, and of course we would have been divided. Some of us would have pushed back because well, we don't follow that person at his denomination, or we can't be a part of that. But this year, without anyone speaking or leading, churches reach more people for Jesus in 2020 than ever before in history. So we have been affected in regards to our physical contact because the church is an organism. We're a living organism, and we minister to one another naturally. That's who we are according to 1 Corinthians 12. And God has given us the command to not forsake the assembling of one another. So we had to really work through that, and we're discovering the challenges, the emotional challenges. Our counseling load has increased because people are having difficulty relating in small spaces over long periods of time. We're dealing with people who feel boxed in, they feel closed in. So we started an outdoor service. We had to do something. We bought tents, we bought chairs, we we bought all kind of supplies so that we could meet the needs of the people. With this in mind, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. The church is unstoppable. We've been through more difficult things than this in our past. We went through 350 years of persecution by the Romans. Surely we can handle a COVID-19 or anything else that comes our way.
We supply nitrogen to essential businesses. So uh, in March, exactly March 16th, we lost 95% of our revenue. It was it was a scary time. Um, you know, we didn't know exactly what we were going to do. We started modeling all of the different scenarios. Back then, we didn't know very much. We know a lot more about the crisis now that we've gone through it than we did at that time. So um, we had to figure out as much information as we could as fast as we could. So in the early days, we were helped because we do supply nitrogen to essential businesses. So all of our drivers had letters from our fertility clinics and our medical laboratories. They would get um, pulled over by police officers on their way to work, and they would have to show this letter to to show that they could, in fact, be on the road. And then they would also be stopped and questioned when they were delivering nitrogen. So it was a pretty crazy time. Um, uh, the first thing that I did as a leader was um, we started uh, we started looking at our cash flow position and how long we could survive with the cash that we had on hand, losing all of our revenue. Um, I had a little disagreement with my wife. We made the decision to take zero compensation when this happened. That's not necessarily the best conversation to have with your wife, but we worked through it. We trusted the Lord, a lot of prayer, a lot of study in God's Word, and also being um, being taking care of personal finances is really important as a business owner. In the Bible, Paul talks about being content, being content with very little, but also being content with much. And sometimes it's hard to tell yourself not to make that purchase when possibly you could. And so some of those decisions were very helpful when we lost all of our revenue. We had to go to zero compensation personally. But one of the things that it helped for us was it was a leadership tool, because a lot of our employees took voluntary pay cuts also, just so that we could figure this out and last longer. And so we were hit really hard, just like everybody else. And I think some of those things that we did early on ended up helping us manage this crisis much easier and come out of it in a strong position.
We all know it was a shock when it came and actually knocked on our door. I mean, we knew what was going on in China and around the world a little bit, but when it really became real here, I don't think any of us were ready for it. So, what happened with our company is the sales started to slow down and then they actually just came to a complete halt. We had never, ever had a day where we didn't have sales. So when that happened and we could see at this point what was coming, I made a business decision to shut my doors. And the reason I did that is I wanted to make sure when this was done that I had the resources to open back up. So as a company, we got together, we got together in the warehouse, and actually we just said a prayer and we talked about it because we are a faith-filled business, and that's what we use to get through the tough times. So we decided that we would shut down. We, hoped it was just going to be a short period of time, and really it only was. And we were only closed for, I believe it was 2 weeks, and then we started to have customers that needed products. So we started to come in slowly, and it was only a couple hours, and it was a couple days, and then it wasn't long, and we were back up to full operation. But we didn't bring everybody back until we did get the P3 loan from the government. So that's what really allowed us to come back. But during that time, it just was surreal because, you would never, ever think that we'd have to make a decision to close a business and shut the doors for something that provided income, not only for myself and my family, but for all the families that work here or work here. So it was a very, very difficult day, but we rallied and we made changes within the company that allowed us to operate. And what we did right away is we looked at it like we were on a seesaw. So it was, whether you're looking at the economy side of it or if you were looking at the safety side of it. And we tried to find that balance between the two, and so we could satisfy both ends, which was really challenging. And what we were able to do is make sure that right away we put the protocol into place that kept us safe. So, if we had someone sharing a small office, we moved someone into the warehouse or into the conference room. If we had someone that, wanted to work from home, they got to work from home. So we have someone that actually has a newborn baby, and she just didn't want to come back to work, and so she's doing customer service from home, and it's been fine. It's worked out great for us, and she can do what she needs to do through this time. And we also made sure we got masks for everybody right away. We put a cleaning protocol into place, so we clean every day and wipe everything down. We changed the way that we do lunches. We stagger our lunches. We moved the table from the enclosed or the break room out into the warehouse so there was more open air and people could spread out more. And the other thing we did is we changed our will call policy. Where before we'd have people come to the back to pick up the captures and wheels, and they would come into our warehouse. Well, now we don't let them come into the warehouse. We have them call, and we have the product ready. We have it delivered to them. We do a no-touch will call, and it's been fine. Customers have been very happy with it. We're able to keep both parties safe, which is what we're really trying to do. And the other thing we did is, we marketed through this too, because we wanted people to know that we were an essential business and that we were here to support them. So we were sending emails out and doing things on social media. And in that, we decided that we would even create our brand ambassador with a mask on. So this has been kind of fun. This is Dharma, as I get her back in the picture here. This is Dharma, and we felt that she needed to go through this pandemic with us. So she has her mask on also.
So I'd like to pose a question to our panelists. Have there been opportunities where you've been able to reset your business and pivot in your business during this economy?
One of the things that COVID-19 has done for the church, it's done good as well as damage. It's caused many of us to rethink how we do ministry. How do we operate in a world that is very different today? 50 years ago we operated one way, but today we operate in a culture that does not welcome absolute truth. We really want more of a pluralistic society where everybody and everybody's views are welcome, even if we don't agree. And so we just go with the flow, and it's more pluralistic. But the Bible is not really pluralistic. The Bible is very, very tied into God, and God being the Lord of all, and God who created us saying, I set the standards, and this is what I expect from you. I have come after you with an eternal love, and I have saved you, and I've changed you, and this is what I want. And so, with that in mind, we've had to rethink how we deliver ministry in a COVID environment. We had an online presence, but it needed a focused agenda. It needed a focused approach. So we were just getting by. It was mediocre. It was not 5 star. And COVID forced us to put some of our youngest and brightest members onto this project of online presence so that we represent the Lord well. And so we're doing a lot better. We have, I mean, it's like night and day, the difference between our online presence. We also had to look at our connectivity as a church. We looked at all 104 ministries that we have operating, and we noticed that 85 of them, 85 ministries, are operating. And so we had to provide systems for our members to connect and stay connected to one another. So we reinforce connections. For instance, with our Monday night prayer meeting, we were averaging about 25, 30 people. Now, prayer is one of the most important components to church. If you don't have prayer, you're moving with a major disadvantage. And so because of COVID, we went online. We provided phone lines for our prayer teams to call into. And now we average over 100 people in prayer meeting every Monday night. So COVID helped strengthen our prayer ministry, the foundational ministry for our church. Something else happened, our Helping Hands ministry, where we give out food and try to be a resource to the community. Um, it's always been an essential service, but during COVID, because so many people are hungry, it our Helping Hands ministry really became an essential ministry where we secured more food supplies. And since COVID started, we've fed over 4,000 people in our community. We have a lot of hungry people. And we do not give out little small packages. We give out very hefty and healthy food packages every week and sometimes throughout the week. And so these are the things that we've had to change operationally. In regards to our finances, and that's really a big deal, our government, our Congress, and our senators stepped up and said, you know what? We need to help our businesses around the country. And, I just pause to thank God for our political leaders. And it really was a joint effort between our Congress and our senators, our U.S. congressmen and senators. And they said, we need to provide some type of support for our businesses. And in their legislation, they included churches because the pandemic was timed such that we were coming toward the spring of the year, which is a good time for the church. But guess what? The summer months are times when we usually experience a drop in financial support. And so the stimulus money came out, the payroll protection program. And we have over 30 employees at Mount Zion. We have a preschool plus our employees. And we were concerned about the church ending physical services and going online. We had no idea what was going to happen with the financial support. And so we, along with several other churches, applied for payroll protection because that was not the time during COVID, that was not the time for us to lay off employees. People were dying. We got essential workers coming in and out of the church, trying to keep the people together, trying to encourage people who've been laid off, trying to provide food for hungry families and keep things going. That was not the time to lay people off. And it's not the time now to lay people off. And so we're very thankful that we were able to apply and qualify for the payroll protection program. And so now we're in the summer months and people go on vacation and the financial support drops. And so we're thankful that we are able to keep people on board at Mount Zion. So these are some of the practical things that we've had to deal with COVID-19. COVID is going to be with us for a while. The flu is still with us, and we have other things that are with us, and we will have to learn how to live with COVID. Despite some vaccine that will come out, COVID's not going away anytime soon. So the church will have to continue working through practical ways to live with COVID. Even as we are able to regather physically, we'll have to do that in a safe way. We'll have to be thoughtful. Just like businesses are having to be very thoughtful and how they continue their business operations. The travel industry will have to be thoughtful. With Zoom taking the place of many flights and hotels, the travel industry will have to rethink that, and we will have to rethink it just like businesses. Who goes on the trip? Because you still can't replace physical presence and physical interaction. I get zoomed out. I promise you. I get zoomed out. I don't even want to see a computer screen at the end of some days. But if I'm in a physical meeting with people throughout the day, I'll enjoy dinner with them, and we will continue having meaningful discussion. And so we will still have to think through, how do we do travel? Who gets to go on those trips? What hotels are we going to stay in? And the list goes on and on. So we have to live with COVID. COVID is not going anywhere soon.
This crisis was amazing for me personally. It allowed me to enter into a greater trust relationship with God. You know, the Bible teaches that I'm allowed to worry as much as God worries, and He's not worried at all. You know, I'm allowed to worry as much as that bird outside that's chirping. You know, He's not thinking about what he's going to eat or where he's going to sleep. And the Bible says that God cares for me much more than the bird outside. So it was an opportunity for me to trust God in areas that maybe I hadn't fully trusted Him. And I am thankful for a crisis that pushes me into a closer relationship with God. And so personally, all of the difficulties that I went through and that my family went through and that our team went through, you know, we had to let people go, amazing team members that they didn't do anything wrong. It's just the environment changed around us. So all of those opportunities basically kind of hardened our team and me personally. I've got some scabs, you know, but they grew back healthier, and it's like a muscle. When you work out, it grows back bigger and stronger. And so that's the way we feel. We have so many new opportunities. I mean, honestly, it was difficult just to do these interviews. We've got so many business opportunities coming in, you know, from companies that have heard about us. We did a lot of things that weren't maybe necessarily revenue motivated, more altruistic during this time to help people out, and those things are paying off. And I think that a lot of times, great companies and great leaders, they're just waiting for a crisis uh, to make them stand out in some way. And that's really happened with us. We've been able to we've been able to cut some expenses, cut some fat.
Through this pandemic more than ever, my networking has really paid off. And, there was a time that I thought, gosh, am I going to too many workshops? Am I going to too many things to be with people? But really, when things get rough, it's that strength that pulls you together from having people to talk to and share things with. So, what I've been able to do is, first of all, the SCDC, part of SBA organization, was extremely helpful at the beginning of the pandemic of talking about the PPP loan and trying to understand what I needed to do and when was it coming out and how to get lined up for it. So I talked to them a lot. They were extremely helpful. Then I also have my score advisors from the SBA, and the same thing. It's like just being able to talk about marketing ideas, talking about how to get creative, how to pivot, what do we need to do different. And again, not to just sit there and feel sorry for ourselves and feel scared. It's like, how can we take action? How can we make a difference? And, I do network with a lot of people. I'm part of the National Association of Women Business Owners. And again, just listening to the workshops and the different ideas that people have and sharing experiences and listening to the stories and just also saying, I'm not sure what we're going to do. How are we going to handle this? All really helps a lot.
Fortunate for my business because of operating in a virtual world. I haven't really taken it as a negative, even though some of the opportunities have, fallen to the wayside. But then it's presented new opportunities because we can't forget that now, we're operating on a national and even global stage, being able to operate in a virtual environment. And that has also been one of the biggest blessings, is that I've been able to participate and gain contracts nationally that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to gain, especially as a mom in business, which has been a challenging time, just figuring out how to keep my kids getting a good quality education, while staying safe during these times. But it's really opened up another world. And, I just urge everyone to really seize the moment and figure out how you can take your business both nationally and globally to capitalize on some of the other opportunities. So I just urge everyone to just really be creative in this time. Clearly, during these challenging times, our faith has been challenged, but we must remember where our strength comes from and who's really supporting us. Okay, and that's our Heavenly Father. But I want to know, how has your faith been challenged? And what are your plans for moving forward?
COVID-19 has not only challenged the church to reflect on how we're currently operating, but it's causing us to rethink, how do we envision? Envisioning is where we look out and decide the direction we're going in. We don't necessarily bring our past with us. We're aware of our past, but we set a path, a navigation path, and we head in that direction. And so there are new opportunities that we're envisioning. We're getting glimpses of those things right now. For instance, the church, the congregation, is international. It's not localized, it's more global now. We have several members who joined the church from Africa. We have people who are in our Bible studies across the nation. We have people who are in our prayer meetings and demanding that we maintain our prayer meeting structure, and they're from around the country. Our Bible studies have increased in number. The seniors who don't drive at night are now involved in Bible study and prayer meeting and just as happy as they could be because they feel included. Um, some of the new opportunities are, how do we grow ministry with limited space? For instance, our goal is to have over 500 people in our Sunday Bible study from 9:30 to 10:30. Well, our building can only hold about 400 people. So how do you set a goal and you don't even have the physical space? COVID-19 has presented opportunities. They were there, but it's made us really hone in on the new opportunities. You don't have to have the physical space. You need to have the online presence and consider the extra people who come online as a part of your growth. And so, even localized growth, you can look at some people who will join the class online and some people who will be there physically. So, we can't go backwards. We have these online platforms, and so we maintain them. We do a hybrid type ministry now where you have both gas and electric. And so we have the physical space and we also have the online platforms. The church is not going to go backwards. We're going to go forward with a hybrid model in ministry. So those are great opportunities for us. Even financing of the church's operations. We have new opportunities. Some churches were hesitant to set up online giving, but today, if you're going to be relevant, if you're going to meet people where they are, people want to be generous. People want to give to the church because the church has been a stabilizing force in the midst of COVID. We don't have enough psychologists in the country to deal with all of the fallout from COVID, but the church stands right there to bring stability. And so in order to keep churches functioning at a 5-star level, you have to go online and give people opportunities to give. So those are a couple examples of the opportunities before us.
This experience has challenged my faith in many ways, and a lot of times you know things happen and you have to pre-prepare, and so a lot of your decisions are sometimes just gut instinct, and they're simply reactions because you don't have a lot of time to think about it, and decisions need to be made. So I prepared well in advance for this, the same way I prepare, reading God's word every day, and in prayer, and involved in my local church. I have a lot of wise counselors that are available to me, and those relationships take time of cultivating. Having somebody that you can call when you're in a situation, and get their perspective. It takes a lot of energy to maintain those relationships, and to have that person, that bat phone that you can call and get a different perspective. So I prepared by having people in my life that I trust and that know me, and that maybe know some of my weaknesses and some of the areas where I have a tendency to maybe be blind. And so going into this crisis, I was pre-prepared, and I can't speak enough about preparing today for the next crisis. But because I did those things, it made it much more navigable for my team and I to figure out what to do, what we needed to do cash flow wise to survive, what communications we needed to send out. Honestly, I saw all kinds of opportunities in the storm, um, I actually called one of our competitors and I said, hey, listen, everyone's struggling here. You guys might have some essential businesses that you cannot get to. And I just want to let you know that we're prepared and we can help you out. And here's my number if you guys need any assistance. And some of those competitors honestly aren't here anymore. I mean, the COVID crisis was that bad, and um, so uh, we are benefiting from, unfortunately, some of the mistakes that other business owners made, whether they didn't have enough cash to get through, whether they weren't working with their bank. Having a wonderful relationship with MPAC um, is a benefit because everyone was trying to get a portion of the government stimulus that was available. So you have to prepare for these crises, and we know that they're coming. And so because we were pre-prepared in those ways, it helped us navigate the waters easier and better.
Well, I think one of the things that has been helpful to me is there's been fear in my life before. And I've learned that when you have fear, the best thing to do is to rely on your faith, is to have conversations with God, is to pray, is to talk about it, not just to hold it inside. So what we did is we talked as a team. We talked as a whole family here about what was going on, about the uncertainty. And we got together and we held hands and we said a prayer. When we got the P3 money, we got together and I said, you guys, this is a gift. This is totally a gift from God. And I really believe that. And I believe that it was an opportunity for us, not just to get through what was going on, but to get stronger through it. And I really encourage everybody to look at it as an opportunity and to do what they could to do their part to make the pastor stronger through this.
Closing, I just want us all to remember Psalm 46. It's one of my favorite scriptures, is that God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in times of trouble. Now, that's the part that I actually memorized. But therefore we will not fear, though the earth be moved, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. I just want us to all, moving forward, keep that in mind. And I just want to thank our panelists tremendously. And thank you all for sharing your time with us.